Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. So, with National Signing Day still upon us, I thought that December 26, 2022, I want to talk about some questions that, as of today, that we have going into spring football. Now, spring football is around the corner, but it's not right around the corner, but it is around the corner. And again, as I preface this by saying, on December 26, 2022, these are some of the questions that I have now. I'm going to ask a question for each, particular position group, and I want to give a little, background, a little breakdown to it. So let's get started. Quarterback position. Now, I did a video a couple of weeks back, and I asked the question, will Jake Garcia and Tyler Van Dyke be able to recover from this, right? We've seen instances in which quarterbacks come out and play the way that they both played, and that kills confidence. That those guys never recover from that. And we've seen situations like that. Many people said that occurred with, Kyle Wright. Just so much bad occurred at such a time that he was never able to, shake back from it. And so from a mental standpoint, you have to think about it again, and I don't have to rehash it, but we understand what Tyler Van Dyke was coming into the season. Then we saw what Tyler Van Dyke was during the season. A lot of people, lauded Jake Garcia for a lot of things that, he could do. And we saw what it looked like on the field for him. And Ja'Carri Brown played well in the situations that he was placed in. I know a lot of people are still talking about, his passing or lack thereof. And my thing is this, and I'm at, and this is just this. If you're comparing a young man to Vince Young and to Cam Newton, what type of pass are you looking to get? I posted the statistics or stats on 247 message board a couple of weeks back when we were discussing this. I posted Vince Young's first 2 starts as a redshirt freshman. Ja'Carri is a true freshman. Vince Young's first 2 starts as a redshirt freshman, he was less than 50% passing. Had over 100 yards on the ground, but it was less than 50% passing. So the first question that goes in my mind is like, well, why would a coach play a man that's only completing less than 50% of passes? And my first inkling was he's just too dynamic of a player. He's too dynamic of a player not to play him, because I'm and I'm not a Texas fan, but I don't think it would have been a situation where Texas had 2 or 3 other quarterbacks on roster that all 3 of them or 4 of them would have completed less than 50% of their passes. But that's what they went with, and it paid dividends. And what in a game that many felt like was probably, at least from the modern era, the best national championship game of the modern era between them and USC, and probably one of the top 5 games in college football history, right? So it paid off, right? So that's the question. Well, 2 questions. Will those 2 guys be able to bounce back? And we have a true open competition. Right? So that'll be interesting to see. Right, moving into the running back. Running back question is the same question we had last year going to spring. How healthy are we at this? How healthy are we? We went into last year with an abundance of, depth. Obviously with Citizen being a true freshman, a lot of people were saying a lot of good things about him, but he's hurt. He's coming back from ACL. So how hard is our staff going to try to push him to get out there in spring? Because they were very, with kid gloves, with Rooster last year, as well as with Don Chaney. So it'd be interesting to see how healthy is this particular room, right? Because we know that obviously we lost 2 guys in Thad as well as Rooster. We signed 2 guys. Maybe we may sign a guy or maybe 2 guys from the portal. But we know right now Henry Parrish was dealing with something towards the end of the year. Citizens coming back from ACL. Obviously, Don Chaney is dealing with whatever his particular injuries are. So what are we looking like at this particular position? Because obviously we know spring is going to be pretty physical, right? We know it's going to be physical. Because, hey, we're a tough team. But no, all jokes aside, though, but how healthy are we going to be at that particular position going into spring, right? And I think most people tell you spring is about technique and being better at the technique. So I'm interested to see, because one of the things that we've suffered at is pass protection from the running back position. So it'd be interesting to see how what Coach Smith does with that particular unit or whatever guys that's available. Because, running back is one of those positions, young guys can come in and play, but you have to be able to pass protect. And pass protection is going to dictate your reps, because if we're down and teams know we're passing, we can't just continue to flank you out. You got to stay in there. You got to put your helmet in somebody's chest. You got to, you got to do what you got to do. Chip them. You got to do whatever you got to do to keep your quarterback upright, especially sitting in the heat. So it'll be interesting. So, but again, that's the question. How healthy would the position be going into spring? Now, moving to the tight ends. Who's going to replace Will Mallory? Now, obviously, most people would say Jaleel Skinner will replace Will Mallory. What are you talking about, Shad? But there were reports towards the end part of last year that they were looking at Jaleel Skinner at wide receiver due to depth issues. Now, looking at Jaleel Skinner physically, he probably could pack on some muscle, pack on some weight. But again, at what cost? And can his body actually take that weight, right? So we know we're dealing with an issue, an injury with Arroyo. So my money is on Jaleel Brantley. Jaleel Brantley has been on campus, this is his 4th year. He did pretty well in, certain situations. I don't think maybe he was as devastating of a blocker as Arroyo was, even though Arroyo missed. Royals was a good blocker compared to Will Mallory, but again, these are just things that these particular guys can work on. But I think Jaleel Brantley and obviously Matt Morelli are in the driver's seat for this, if indeed they're looking to flex Jaleel Skinner out. And if they're not looking to flex Jaleel Skinner out, we can't go through another year of seeing Jaleel Skinner going out there and doing things like what Will Mallory was doing, things that they're just not good at doing. It is what it is, tight end has kind of gotten to the position like a defensive end where people rank you a little bit higher for your pass catching ability, not your blocking, and for a defensive end for your run protection, So it's kind of like, can you get sacks and can you catch the ball, right? But I think Jaleel Brantley should be first man up in that particular scenario. But again, who's going to replace Will Mallory? Now, let's go out to the wide receiver position. Who's going to step up? Are we going to go in another year of looking for a portal receiver to be our number one guy? Or is some of the homegrown talent going to rise to the occasion? Now, I have mixed feelings about this, right? Because we saw the year that Charleston Rambo had. We see what KJ Osborne did for us, and obviously what KJ Osborne is doing in the NFL right now. We saw that. So that's what we've had to depend on the past couple of years as portal receivers. And obviously from a high school standpoint, recruited a lot of slot receivers to add to the team full of slot receivers and running backs who can play slot receiver. But we're going to do it on the outside, right? Now, most people would say, hey, Kobe Young's going to be the number one guy. Well, obviously, Kobe Young has some work to do to be a true number one. He's obviously off to a better start than the other guys because he's actually showed the ability to catch the ball, and not just wide open balls, but contested catches. But I'm going to be a little biased here. I think Jacoby Young puts it together. Not Jacoby Young, Jacoby George. I think Jacoby George puts it together. I think Jacoby George could be our number one receiver going into leaving out of spring because he does a lot of things really well. Very smooth in route running, a lot of things like that. I think Kobe Young could be a very good number two receiver, but obviously we wanted him to be a number one. He was being put in position to be a number one, right? Not saying that he can't be a number one, but it goes back down to development. Can he develop those particular traits? And obviously springtime is where you get to work on that particular stuff. But I like Jacoby Young. But again, that's the question. Are we going to get a number one receiver? Not from the portal this time. Right. So, offensive line, everyone's favorite position group to talk about. I did a video a while back and I asked the question, will both our freshmen have an ability to start? And I think I pretty much settled on it'd probably be ideal if one of them actually plays. But to me, with the game film that we have out on guys, and spring being what spring is, I feel like that the coaches, because again, they listen, they came in and said they didn't watch any film on anybody last year. That's what they said, right? That's what they said. So you can't say that this year. You have film. You know what the guys need to work on. And again, offensive line is one of those positions, man, where you're really not going to see a return on your investment until, on average, right? Not the rare cases, your Evan Neals, your Panay Sewell, right? I know most people feel like Francis is in that particular ilk, but we'll see when we see when the dust hit the road. And if he is, hey, fantastic, right? But most instances, you're not going to see what you need to see from your offensive line until that guy's a junior, redshirt junior, senior, right? That's when you're really going to see what you have. So I really think that we have some very interesting pieces. Again, some of the guys that played last year were younger, right? They were younger. Now, I'm not going to sit up here again. I don't want you to think that I'm taking this and trying to shoot Gaddis and Bell, because, again, I stand on what I said. We had injuries in 2021, and we were able to move the ball. So I'm not saying that whatsoever. But what I am saying is that is a position where you need some grown men. You need some guys that have been battle-tested. And I don't think guys can be any more battle-tested than they were last year. And, again, if we want to put this superstar developer on Coach Mirabel as well as Coach Cristobal, we need to see you do it with guys that are not necessarily consensus 5-star players, right? Because we see other teams do it around the country. It's only so many 5-star players, a lot of 4-star, a lot of 3-stars, right? So that's what it is. We need to see that. So ideally, to me, it would be great if Francis and Sampson would actually be in that 8 deep rotation, or maybe even 9 and 10, right? Obviously, another question is Zion Nelson going to participate, right? Those are 2 questions at the offensive line. Is Zion Nelson going to come back, and are we going to see some development from the guys that played last year, right? So obviously, we got a big addition in the portal with Cohen, but again, if Mario is the man that he says he is, if y'all hear that train horn, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. It's loud, but I'm not as close to the railroad tracks as you may think I am, right? But then again, you might not hear this that loud. But Cohen should not be given anything. You got to come in and work, right? You got to come in and work. So if he comes in and he works and he wins the job, fantastic. If he doesn't, hey, we need to stop saying that guys that come from these other schools are better than what we have. Because, again, I'm not changing the narrative. I'm sticking on the narrative. Coaching has been lacking. It's not been a talent issue. So I do think that we may have guys that are already here that are just as talented as Cohen. It's just the coaching has not been there, right? So, but we'll see, right? We'll see. Moving to the defensive line, right? Defensive ends, edge rushers, fantastic. A+, should be very, very good for us. But I have a question for them. Are we going to be better in setting the edge? We're going to be better in doing those particular things. Because, again, it's one of those situations, like I said, with the tight ends, people are more enamored with sacks and more enamored with the tight end catching the ball rather than the tight end getting gritty and blocking somebody and the defensive end setting the doggone edge and a line for the linebacker to fill the hole after the running back cuts back, right? So that's what we need to see, right? Defensive tackle. That's a third question. Are we going to get some help, right? What is it going to look like? I saw someone put up like a mock depth chart on defense, and they had Jared Harrison Hunt alongside Leonard Taylor. And ideally, if we're talking about a third down package, that's fantastic. All you got to do is get up the field and get to the quarterback. But first and second downs, where guys are in, as plus territory, plus yardage, where they are able to get, it's 3rd and 2 or, 3rd and 3 or something like that. No, we can't have that, right? We need what made RJ McIntosh so really, really good in 2016, 2017 is because of Kendrick Norton, right? And I think maybe if we would have had a Kendrick Norton playing alongside a Gerald Willis, his final year here, I think Gerald Willis would have been preserved more, because he tailed off towards the back end of the season, right? And obviously the defense as a whole started to tail off a little bit because the offense started to become, not started becoming, we started the season off inept, and it just continued to be ineptness all the way throughout the entire year. But with that being said, we're going to get a plugger, right? Obviously, most people are saying we're going to go to the portal looking for a defensive tackle. So, but as far as the defensive line as a whole, I think is solid. But again, just like anything else, we need it has to work. We need more work. We need to be more technique based with a lot of the things that we're doing, because it was quite a few plays. Obviously, again, we go back to and that could have been just play calling, but the quarterback draw was always there, and for whatever reason, it seemed like we were always twisting. It was always twisting, and guys would not get there. The D tackle would get to where he's supposed to be, but the edge, for whatever reason, he can't get over in wide open field. So, gotta get better at the technique stuff. Gotta get better at those things. Moving to linebacker, my question is Francisco going to dethrone Corey Flagg? Now, most people say, of course he's going to dethrone Corey Flagg. Y'all said that last year. Well, now we got a guy with extra production. Okay, well, we shall see. I like Corey Flagg. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like I don't, because what I took away from it, I was very harsh on Corey Flagg in 2021, just like everybody else. But then I came to the realization, was like, man, I can't be harsh on a player and then turn around and say, well, Shad, you said the defense is dysfunctional. You said the linebackers are not developing. So what are you expecting Corey Flagg to do? He already has limitations. So see what it looks like in a system that is a little bit more organized, a little bit more cleaned up. And Corey Flagg did pretty well. So I'll be interested to see, does he have another gear that he can go to next year? So Francisco's coming. We're happy. Hey, we're happy that he's coming. In most years, we wouldn't be jumping for joy for a guy that came from New Mexico. And I know it was somebody on 247, and I haven't seen them comment on it, or maybe I overlooked it, but they was talking about, man, 50-something tackles from a middle linebacker is trash. Well, that's what Francisco had. That what Noah Sewell had. So. But maybe that's just his one opinion, right? Maybe he changed it. Maybe he saw the light, right? But we do have someone that says that those numbers are trash, right? So we shall see, right? But that's the question. And obviously, again, most people are penciling, Wes Besant to be the co-starter regardless of what happens at the other position. And to borrow from Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. Could have a situation with Corey Flagg and Francisco starting. Wes Besant came in and made some plays, and Wes Besant came in and missed some plays. So I think this particular year, I think they want to be a lot more cerebral on defense. So I think a lot of those maybe mental bust and stuff like that, they may be a little bit more judgmental on, right? So that's what I have that's another question I have in spring. Will Wes Besant take that next step as well? Can he take the next step? Can he and Corey Flagg take those next steps, right? Or could we be in a situation where we got a guy just playing off athleticism, right? So that's that. So getting back to the secondary and conclusion of this particular video, and I got questions for the corners as well as the safety. So I'm gonna start with the corners first. Are we going to finally have a duo, even if it's just for 1 year? Are we going to have a duo of corners on the outside that is not letting anything slide? Are we finally going to get that? Speed on the outside should not be an issue this year from a cornerback perspective. We understood DJ Ivey had his limitations. We understood that Tyree Stevenson could fly, but he maybe struggled with some of the shiftier guys and stuff like that. And that's just one of the Achilles for big corners, right? The small, shifty guys are going to get them. And, we had a few coverage busts. But are we going to have those clamps? Are we going to have those corners this year? That's my question, right? We got Brown from UCF, starter. PFF said I think PFF gave him like a 70 plus coverage grade. Can he get that up to 75? Can he get up to 80? Right? Obviously, we understand we got Daryl Porter, got Torrey Couch, got Chris Graves, got Jaden Harris, Lee Curtis. Obviously, got the freshman Stafford and Brown's little brother. Cross fingers, Cormani McClain. So, out of that whole smorgasbord of corners, are we going to put two guys out there this year? Can we put two guys out there this year that, hey, no fly zone, baby? Can we do that? I mean, I know it's almost impossible to have that with the way the rules are geared, but are we going to have two guys out there that's like, man, they challenging everything, right? It's like a toll road. You don't get no free rides on him. You got to pay. If you catch the ball, I'm on you. Everything got to be contested. Are we going to have that this year? That's my question. From the safety perspective, I got a question for both. What we feel like will be the starters. That's James Williams as well as Cam Kitchens. Start with Cam Kitchens. Is Cam Kitchens going to play at the All-American level? And you may say, well, Rashad, he won All-American. But, yes, he won All-American. But I think many of us want to see more. Because when we think about All-American, at least from a safety position, from a recent standpoint, I think about Jaquan Johnson. And that was All-American. Not saying Cam's is fraudulent or anything, but that's what we saw. No mental lapse. Clean up man. Making plays that he's not supposed to make, and then also making his plays, right? That's what we saw. Can we see Cam Kitchens go to that particular level? Because I saw some people saying, man, this All-American puts him in the league with JJ, and I'm like, no. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I think that year, his last year was more so of like what Rayshawn Jenkins did in 2016, his last year, right? What JJ did in 17 was special. So can Cam Kitchens get to that level, right? Can he play at that level, right? Because I think some of the things we saw with Cam Kitchens, and people have named it the Bubba Bolden syndrome, where it's like, I had a game where I made a lot of plays, right? And then I tried to continue to do that throughout the rest of the season, and I started to look bad. I started to regress more. So, obviously, if we got a more sound defense, that allows for Cam to make more plays on his own. And lastly, for James Williams, was last year just a sophomore slump, or do we have real problems? Because I know sophomore slump is not usually thrown out anymore for the simple fact that guys are growing up so fast. When I say growing up fast, I'm talking about a guy may not play his freshman year and play his sophomore year, his junior year, and then he's off to the draft. So he's grown. So you don't necessarily see those sophomore slumps like that anymore. And obviously James was battling with some injuries and things like that. But was that a sophomore slump? Or do we have some real problems, right? And so I'm going to lean to, I was just a sophomore slump, and James Williams, as well as Leonard Taylor, should play the way that we think they should play, and it should start in spring, right? It should start in spring. So that's all I have. I know the video went a little bit long, but I wanted to touch on every position group. I wanted to give a little backstory to it. So as always, man, like, share, subscribe, and kudos to you guys, man. I passed the 200 subscriber threshold. So I'm going to get with somebody, and we're going to talk about how I can get some gift cards together, figure out the best way to give it out to some of you guys who have rocked with me and, you know, comment on the video, sharing the video, liking it, all that good stuff like that. So I want to give back to you guys. So we're going to get back. We're going to figure out how we're going to do this, and we're going to get y'all some gift cards, man, right after Christmas. Right after Christmas. So as always, man, like, share, subscribe, man. It's always about the you.